Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning, and you're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got an action-packed show lined up for you today. A lot to talk about. We'll have our college football analyst Brent Beaird momentarily. Second portion, we'll kick off the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup with Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. So let's jump right into it. Brent, good morning. You're on the Titan MR Hotline. How you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing good. It's always fun to be in week 0. We'll take a look at some of those games. I've even got an SEC game with Vanderbilt playing Hawaii as I've got construction going on in the stadium. So they will have a very small crowd, but that's par for the course if you want to get the stadium improvements done. Now, one thing for all of us to keep in mind with this week is one of the options, and this is not this year, this is next year. The possibility is there because you've got extra games with the expanded playoff. And what that might mean is, well, when do you start the season then? Well, everybody, I don't mean just week 0 teams like we have this week, but everybody may be starting the season next year in 2 days. So just fast forward, if we're a year from now, that is very much a possibility that we will all be starting the season in August. I know that's not a great when you think about the heat, but Shane, as you know, you got to get these games in. We'll see if that happens, but it certainly is on the agenda as a possibility.
Yep, and hopefully they'll call it week 1. And not week 0. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, really.
Brent, we got a bunch of Facebook Lives for you already, but before we jump into that, if anybody's crazy enough to get married this fall, you got the most popular wedding date of the year, September 23rd. There's some damn good football games on that weekend.
I'll never understand why women want to get married in the fall. I know they have this illusion that this is going to be this wonderful fall weather, and I'm not sure where you have to go right now to have wonderful fall weather, but the most popular wedding date this year is September the 23rd, and that on that day, Florida State, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Iowa, Penn State, and SMU and TCU. So, Shane, the point of that is, if some of these women are smart, they may want to postpone that for a little bit.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. The Swamp Kings came out this week. Obviously got some questions here for you. Andy asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Brent, what's your opinion of Swamp Kings, and what do you remember most about Tebow's recruiting process in his high school days?
Well, I haven't seen Swamp Kings yet. It's on the agenda, and I will. I'm like Shane. When the week the season starts is very busy. I was there when he committed and he signed with Florida at Nice High School. It was unbelievable, and the atmosphere, to say the least. Even before Twitter world came in, golly, can you imagine what that would have been like, Shane? If we'd had social media back then, merciful heavens. Now, I will say this, and people may not understand this, but he came a lot closer to signing with Alabama than people will ever realize. He had a tremendous relationship with Mike Shula. Now, Mike Shula is not a great head coach, which is one of the reasons that He hadn't been a head coach since Alabama, but he is that good of a quarterback developer. So Tebow would have been tremendous with Shula. And look, what I remember, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen or would have happened, but I heard that if he would have had to have signed earlier in the day, then it may have been very much Alabama. But I mean, he did what he needed to do, and it was logical that he went to Florida, and then that certainly allowed Alabama to dismiss Mike Shula basically not too long after that and bring in Nick Saban. So it worked out well for both the schools.
David on YouTube says, finishing second episode of Swamp Kings, and all I want to know is about Chris Leak's relationship with Urban then and now. I can't speak for Chris, but I don't think it was a great relationship. You got to remember, Chris was recruited by Ron Zook and Larry Fedora. But Chris is our all-time leading passer and does not get the love he should, in my opinion. So, all right, Brent, we got football games, my man, like this Saturday in 2 days. Anything is Brent going to hunker down and watch like New Mexico State and UMass? I mean, they're not great games, but heck, it's football, right?
Well, and that's really all that matters, frankly. Let me just throw some stuff out, just as interest. Notre Dame obviously plays Navy in Ireland. The Navy's got a new staff. That'll be interesting to see where that goes. But Sam Hartman is your quarterback now at Notre Dame. He was at Wake, so that's going to be a real help for them. Utah plays Jacksonville State, and the reason I mention that is Ridaught, again, is at Jacksonville State, and Jacksonville State's making its Conference USA debut. How about that?
Oh, so they moved up a level. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So look, Shane, for even for you and me, the first 2 weeks of the season, we're going to need a roster for not only the players, but where these folks have gone. Now, UMass is at New Mexico State. UMass's transfer quarterback is from Clemson, and you remember the name, and I really can't pronounce it, but it's Tayson, and it begins with a P. And forgive me for that for struggling with that.
Or something like that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. We'll go with that for the moment. New Mexico State is coached by Jerry Kill. If you remember that name, head coach, has had some health problems. Glad he's back and he's doing okay. Also, the night game is on the SEC network, is Hawaii and Vandy. So, I mean, certainly Vandy destroyed them last year, and they'll beat them this year. But they love Timmy Chang in Hawaii, the coach there. I've got a good friend who his daughter is on the recruiting staff at Hawaii, and they love Chang. So now the most senseless thing of all, you've got San Jose State at USC. Okay, you've got Caleb Williams. You've got one of the best teams in the nation, the top 10, and it's on the Pac-12 network, which means probably 100 people will see it on television. So in your last game, is another Florida team, FIU at Louisiana Tech. So, and Louisiana Tech second-year coach Sonny Cumbie is going with Boise State quarterback Hank Bowerman or Bachmeier. I'm sorry. So that's a little bit on all the games, and maybe give you some folks a reason to watch some of them.
We got a couple of texts on the Titan Mark text line. Philip from Enterprise, Alabama. There have been some good football players come out of Enterprise, Alabama.
Right.
He says, "Good morning, QB. We are 6 days away, and I wake up till kickoff. Can I get an amen?" Amen, brother. Amen.
Amen.
Josh says on the Titan Mark text line from Mississippi, "What is Brent hearing about the ACC expansion? Is it just them getting the leftover scraps, in your opinion?"
Well, here's what's happening there. and this again changes by the moment, but the latest is the ACC is a lot more serious about adding Stanford, Cal, and SMU than they have previously. Some of the presidents, and again, we got to remember, this is who makes the decisions. Some of the ACC presidents have met yesterday to discuss the finances, and it's always about the money. So what they need is 12 of 15 members to vote yes in order to add any new members. They have been below that. Now, another thing that's come up here is that ESPN, and I've always been amused at this, that ESPN reports these things and then ESPN makes the money available for it to happen. Is there anything else in life that happens like that, Shane? So basically what we understand is that ESPN has come up with more money to make this a possibility. Ross Dellinger is saying the ACC would make an additional $72 million in revenue from ESPN if it expands to these three teams. So I won't belabor the point anymore. If folks have other questions, we'll get into it. But in a nutshell, that's where we are. It's still not happened yet. It possibly could, not going to say it is, but Shane, when you get additional monies involved, the things kind of happen, don't they?
Yes, no doubt about it. Ronnie on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, lives up in Knoxville, Tennessee. He says, who on the roster is not being talked about, but we will have their attention, or be getting attention by the end of September. I go back. I know the three receivers have been talked about, Mizell, Wilson, and Gene. I think all three of them are going to have a big impact. So
yeah.
I didn't really answer your question because they're kind of people know about them, but I think that's who it's going to be.
I'll throw some in there real quick, Shane. Defensive end Tyler Barron is their secondary struggling a bit, so they need some help from the front seven. Baird's a senior. Aaron Beasley, pretty much everybody knows about. He's our weak side linebacker who is really good. But if folks haven't paid attention to him, they will. Probably the key on the defense is Amari Thomas, defensive tackle, 6'4", 320. They've got to get Cooper Mays healthy. Their center, he has not been healthy the entire fall. And again, Joe Milton is probably the key to the season in a lot of ways. So, look, the offense is going to be tremendous. Shane and I have talked about that for months now. The problem with them is that their defense has to be much better, so we will wait and see if it is.
All right, Brent, let's go ahead and jump into the league because we got to talk high school sports with Mike Ridaught in a little bit. Alabama. Don't you think all three quarterbacks are going to play in week one before Texas?
Yeah, I think they've got to, and they really need to get some tape on how these guys do. And again, it's Middle Tennessee State, but we need to remember Middle beat Miami last year, so they're capable. Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, and Tyler Buckner all worked with the first team. They had a scrimmage on Saturday, nothing definitive yet from that scrimmage. And I'll throw another name in there. Dylan Lonergan, Lonergan, is a true freshman who many people say probably has the best arm of anybody. So they've got a deep quarterback room. It's inexperienced, so they're trying to figure that out. The defense is much better, and I mean much better, under Kevin Steele. So that's going to be huge for them. By the way, Eli Gold, their play-by-play guy, is coming back this year. He had cancer last year and had to get over the treatment, but Eli is only doing the home games. Chris Stewart, who does basketball, is going to be doing the road games. So I just wanted to throw that in there. is Alabama still trying to figure out at this point who the quarterback is. Some schools know this, but Saban said over the last few days, make me want to play you. That's what he's told the quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear Eli Gold's back. I love his voice, and I'm big into these old, broadcasters from each SEC school. It's always good to hear their voices. So good
Right.
that he's back. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're with Brent Beaird. We'll have Mike Ridaught in the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. Also, don't forget, next week I will kick off on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. with the head ball coach and Steve Russell, our Inside the Huddle. And you can listen to that on all the different platforms or also on WRUF ESPN. Alan says it really makes me sick that college football's boiled down to money. What the hell happened to the loyalty and pageantry of college football? I'm with you, Alan, but that's long gone. That is long gone. It's a mess. It is a mess. And I don't know if it's never going back. Arkansas, any news coming out of there? I mean, obviously they have some high hopes with KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, but we've talked about it all summer long. They have to improve defensively to have the year they want to have.
Well, there's no question. I would agree with that. Yes. One thing that came out this week, Sam Pittman said, the head coach, wide receiver Jaden Wilson has an AC joint, fell on his shoulder. So he's out a little bit. He should be okay along that line too. Brian Stevens, another wide receiver, is back in practice. They've got Carson Dean, freshman linebacker, is back in practice too. So they've got injuries this time of year just about like everybody else does. But important for their offensive line to be better. I think it will, because as Shane outlined, KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders are two of the best. I mean, these are first-team All-SEC talents. So the biggest thing for them is to get the secondary straightened out, and they made a lot of transfers that we'll go into at another time.
On YouTube, 31M Burr says, "Am I crazy for thinking that TAMU will win the West? They have a very good chance. They're going to have a hell of a year, in my opinion, with Bobby Petrino calling plays." This was an interesting Facebook Live from, I can get it to work. Tommy says, "Shane, after Swamp Kings, everybody's saying Percy's the most electrifying Gator. Who do y'all think, or is it Percy?" I've said ever since I came a Gator in 1988 that Percy Harvin is the best football player I've seen put on the orange and blue uniform.
Yeah.
Now, the old guys will talk about Wes Chandler and Larry Dubose and Jimmy Dupree and all that, and I get it, because I saw Wes Chandler play for the Saints. I didn't get to see him, and he had nobody really throwing the football. But there was nobody like Percy Harvin when he touched the football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, he just gave you so many dimensions. He could run, he could catch. He'd probably throw if he had to. Also, the return game was amazing for him. So, no doubt about it. And he may not anymore, but I understand he lives in Jacksonville now, in the area. I've heard that. You may know more than I do, and he may move by now. But I'd heard that a few months ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Auburn Tigers, people think they can win maybe 6, 7, 8 games, possibly. They've gone with Peyton Thorne at quarterback.
Yeah, the Michigan State transfer, he was 12 of 17 and 2 touchdowns. Now, they are going to play Robbie Ashford, too. At least he's there for now, unless he leaves. But Thorne is the guy, and Freeze decided to go with him early. Of course, they've got an easy schedule to start to begin with. They do have a game at Cal early on. That is a 10:30 start. So Shane will be home and be able to see some of that game, which would be nice. They've got a wide receiver. Their receivers are better than people think they are. Shane Hooks had a really good summer camp so far. and they need him badly. Again, Auburn has not had a 1,000-yard receiver since Ronnie Daniels in 1999. That's unbelievable.
Wow.
To think about that, isn't it, Shane?
Yeah.
And the only other one they had was Terry Beasley in 1970. So we'll see if they get that. But again, the thing with Auburn is going to be the offensive and defensive line, so that's the key to the season.
Yeah. Florida Gators kicking off a week from today. Do you think Cam Rising is going to play, Brent?
Well, that's the question. I mean, the Las Vegas goes back and forth with that. It was a 9-point favorite, I think, early on, and now it's a 4.5. But see here, your problem here is if he plays, he very well will be limited. Kyle Whittingham, who's a really good coach, is pretty coy about it, but they're trying to figure this out. And again, as Shane has said many times, it takes a long time to get over an ACL. But see, here's their problem. Brandon Rose, their number 2 quarterback, had a lower leg injury, and he is basically out. Bryson Barnes is considered their 3rd-string quarterback, but they've got a kid named Nate Johnson who is pushing him at this point. So right now, man, we just don't know where that's going to be, if they're just playing gamesmanship. And Shane, you've said this many times, and I agree with you, people may not understand when you have an ACL tear like as late in the season as he did, it takes a while to get healed from that, doesn't it?
Yep, for sure. Carson Beck has been named the starter. No surprise there, really. But man, I tell you what, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. I mean, anytime you play quarterback for the 2-time defending national champs, you have pressure. But I'm not sure how good they're going to be, because I just don't think people realize what Stetson Bennett brought to the table.
Well, some problems have cropped up with Georgia, and it's at running back. Number one, Branson Robinson ruptured his.
Yep, player of the year from the state of Mississippi. Yep.
That's right. Ruptured his patella tendon. He's out for the year. And yesterday was also announced Dejon Edwards sprained his MCL. So he's banged up right now. And Kendall Milton has his hamstring that just won't heal. So if you're looking for a problem area with Georgia right now, it is at running back. I was pleased to see Carson Beck get the job. He's a Jacksonville kid. He's 6'4", 220. They think he'll do well within the system. We will see about that. But I think the big thing right now, look, Georgia's got an infinite amount of talent, the number one in all the polls, but doesn't mean they don't have problems, and they've got injury issues right now.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell us anything going on out of Tennessee? I haven't heard much news coming out of there.
Yeah. Well, that's probably good news, frankly. I mean, a lot of it's about Joe Milton, frankly. They did get a 2024 edge rusher, Jordan Ross, from Birmingham. I understand Florida was in that a little bit, Alabama and Texas, so Tennessee got him. But confident, again, that they're going to be fine offensively. But my caution, and if anybody's tuned in late, their biggest problem right now is getting their center healthy. Cooper Mays has been hurt the whole camp, and he is a really good player. I mean, he's preseason All-SEC basically when he's healthy, so they don't quite know that yet. And they play Virginia to open the season next week in Nashville. That's going to be a very easy win for them. And Shane, one of the biggest things people may not have heard about yet, and this basically happened overnight, it was announced, Mason Smith at LSU will not be available for the Florida State game. Now, Wilson Alexander of NOLA.com 1-game suspension, improper benefit. Listen, I have heard LSU beat writers, which is amazing to hear that in this day and age, improper benefit. But I've heard LSU beat writers say the best player on the entire LSU team is not Jaden Daniels, it's Mason Smith. He is a defensive lineman. Remember, got hurt early last year against Florida State, out for the season. But he and Harold Perkins are two of the better defensive players in the nation, not just the SEC. So, Shane, that hit last night. Just wanted to keep folks up to date on that. Denver Harris, a cornerback, transfer from A&M, is also back in camp. He was out for, quote-unquote, personal matters, whatever that means. So he is back with them, too. So, boy, you're just trying to keep up with all that's going on right now with camps. Is a labor of love, believe me.
Yeah, the improper benefits thing makes no sense to me because you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want to do nowadays.
That's right. That's right.
On YouTube, 31 Verse says, Shane, any truth that the Gators stopped recruiting Jordan Ross? Unfortunately, I don't know who Jordan Ross is. I don't follow recruiting. I'll have kids on my show or what have you. I let people tell me about what's going on in recruiting. Gene says Percy's lived in Gainesville for at least 5 years. I think he moved, Gene.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was here for a while, but I don't think he's here anymore. So he could be in the Jackson. Joseph says,
I'm sorry, Shane. Jordan Ross is a kid we just mentioned that he committed to Tennessee. That's the connection there.
Well, just because he committed doesn't mean we stopped recruiting him, and maybe there's a reason why we stopped if we did. So,
correct.
Remember, folks, just because they verbally committed does not mean we're still not recruiting them, or other schools are recruiting our verbal commits. Joseph says he saw a stat on X, which is Twitter, by one of those media guys. In a nutshell, Mike Norvell has not had but one high school player he's recruited that has been drafted. And that player was drafted from Memphis after he left. That's interesting. That is interesting. Okay. All right, Brent, give us some nuggets that time went way too fast, but give us some nuggets that you think our listeners may want to hear before we get you out of here.
Yeah, I'll blow through some things real quick. Miami has a couple of guys on the freshman watch list. Reuben Bain at defensive tackle, who they love. They cannot keep him off the field. And they've got a couple of offensive linemen who they really like too. One is Francis Maiuga, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. But I think they're happy with where that's going. FSU still, they're very happy with where FSU is right now. All kinds of awards for them. A&M, a guy to keep your eye on is Jada Walker, who's a wide receiver from Grand Valley State. He is as if they need more receivers, but he has really come on during the summer. They've been very impressed with him and what he has done. Also, South Carolina freshman wide receiver Nicholas Harbor is doing well. He may be able to crack the lineup a little bit. They love him too. Luke Altmaier, who transferred from Ole Miss, has been named the starting quarterback of Illinois. So keep that in mind. Missouri, still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. Looks like it's probably going to be Brady Cook, Sam Horn, and then Jake Garcia, who transferred from Miami, and a couple other things as we go here. Again, keep your eye on the ACC situation because they may add Cal and Stanford and SMU. And again, I've got one that I want to, if I can find this real quick, just to share, because I know along the line of transfers that are going on would be, yes, Joey Gatewood name. Joey's been everywhere.
Everywhere.
And he is at Louisville now, and he is a tight end, former Auburn, Kentucky, and UCF quarterback, has transferred to his fourth school at Louisville, and he is all in now to be the tight end, Shane. How about that?
Yeah, he's played it all. I feel like I mean, he felt like he was he's been at a million schools. So good luck to him. Hope it works out. We're going to talk a little high school sports now with our good friend Mike Ridaught. Brent, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you next week. I will be doing the show live from Salt Lake City. So I may be still in bed when we're doing the show.
Yeah. But by the way, I've got a speaking engagement at noon in St. Augustine at their sports club. So anyone from St. Augustine would love to see you. Shane, we'll look forward to talking next week, my friend.
All right. That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Take a quick time out, come back. A little high school sports from Mike Ridaught on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Attention all Gator fans, Meldon Law is giving away a chance to experience the Florida-Georgia game like never before. 2-night stay at the Hilton on the River, dinner at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, 2 premium tickets to the game, and a football signed by Coach Billy Napier, and much more. Go to the Meldon Law Facebook page and look for the VIP experience for 2. Good luck and go Gators!
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point is the flagship restaurant of the Florida Gators, the hottest restaurant in Florida in the heart of Gator Nation. That's Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Check them out at spurriers.com. I'm going to go to the Titan MR hotline now, and we are joined by our good friend Mike Ridaught from the prepzone.com and Main Street Daily News. Good morning, Mike. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very good. Looking forward to football. We've actually got football tonight. Trenton is playing at Bell, so the regular season underway.
Yes, it is, and it's going to be hot and heavy. Everybody had their kickoff classics last week. Let's start with the smaller classifications. Obviously, in North Central Florida, there's some powerhouses. The Unions, the Hawthorns, the Chieflands, the Willistons. Boy, it could be a bloodbath just in this area, right?
Yeah, a few years ago, I remember one coach saying it was the West SEC Football West, as good as 1A, now 1R is, and Hawthorns coming off their first state championship in program history, went undefeated last year, beat Northview in the state championship game, finished 12-0. Union County, you mentioned, they made a run all the way to the state semifinals last year. We thought we might have an all-area final, but they lost to Northview on the road. And then you throw in Williston, went 10-0 during the regular season. They did lose to Wildwood in the opening round of the state playoffs, but Robbie Pruitt back for his second year over there. Newberry, I think they're going to be improved. They were in the playoffs last year, but with Kill McGriff at quarterback, they've got an outstanding running back too. I think Newberry's going to be in the mix, and I think Fort White too. You know, they picked up Dakota Fisher, who transferred over from Chiefland High School, running back. They've got some players on that team. I think Fort White could be a little bit of a sleeper in Class 1R.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think Demetric going back there, I think his son's very athletic. It's going to be their quarterback as well. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, so the bigger schools in our area, obviously Buchholz has a lot of transfers that came in. They are going to be solid for sure. Just give us your thoughts on Buchholz, Eastside, and Gainesville High.
Well, Eastside won its first district title in 10 years under Harold Gator Hoskins. I think that the Rams will be in the mix. I think North Marion is down. They've actually lost a couple of players to Hawthorne, North Marion. Santa Fe, that's a 3-team district. So I think Eastside's going to win that district. They'll be back in the postseason. Gainesville, I think it's going to be a process. Ian Scott, a former Hurricane, former Gator, NFL player, first year. I think they're going to have some growing pains. They may surprise some people, but I think it will come later rather than sooner. And then Buchholz, you mentioned, wow, back-to-back state semifinal appearances. The thing is, though, Shane, gone is Mr. Football, Creed Whittemore.
Yeah.
Also gone is the head coach, Mark Whittemore. So let's see how Buchholz does with a new head football coach. But they've got some players. Kendall Jackson, he's committed to the University of Florida. He's a top USA Today top 100 player, 6'4", 250-pound edge rusher. They got Quentin Cutler in the backfield. Last year, rushed for 1,000 yards. And then Miles Graham He transferred actually from Woodward Academy in Georgia. Went to PK Young for a brief period of time. Ernest Graham was on that PK Young staff, but then ended up transferring over to Buchholz. He's also a UF commit, a linebacker. So you got Thomas Weinhardt is back for them. So they do have some players. I think Buchholz will be back in the postseason again. They get a good test, though, on Friday night. They travel to Lake City, Columbia.
Yeah, Columbia got Brian Allen's back on the helm there. Should be a good football game. Columbia has won that. I mean, just dominated that series, quite honestly. Mark asked, where's Whittemore coaching now? Whittemore's not coaching. He's going to help coach baseball at Buchholz.
He's going to, how about that? He just recently announced that he's going to be a part of that baseball staff. And, you know, Buchholz just missed the state semifinals in baseball for the first time in program history last year. So I think Buchholz baseball is going to be pretty good this year. But, yeah, back to Columbia. Columbia made a run all the way to the state semifinals. They lost to Lake Wales, which ended up winning the state championship. They beat Daytona Beach, Maine last year. I think the question for Columbia, and you did mention that, you know, they got their coach back on the sideline. So I think with, Brian Allen, you know, he's never missed the playoffs before. They're going to be in the postseason. Can they be as good as last year? I think that depends on the offense. I think the defense, they're there. You know, Jerome Carter is a special player. Last year, 6 interceptions, including a pick 6, had over 100 tackles for them. The question will be, I think they're replacing 4 guys on the offensive line. They're working on a quarterback that didn't take a lot of varsity snaps. It's going to take a little while. Now, they do have Fryer at wide receiver. So they've got an FSU commit in Camden Fryer. But, you know, I think the defense is what's going to help them early until that offense can catch up. But I could see Columbia making another run this year, again, with Coach Allen back.
Yeah, for sure. We got a text on the Titanamore text line. Comes from someone up in the 904 area code area. He says, Mike, what Jacksonville team or teams has the best chance to win state? Also want to throw Bradford in there. I think they're loaded this year, the Bradford Tornadoes.
You know, that's the great thing about this area, this North Central Florida area, Shane. There are so many teams who have a chance to contend for a state championship. You know, we mentioned Columbia. We mentioned Buchholz, you know, going to back-to-back Final Fours. We mentioned Hawthorne winning their first state championship, but it was also their 3rd straight appearance in the state championship game. But Bradford, Shane, they are hoping to set the record for the most shutouts in program history. The interesting thing about that is they set the record last year with 9 shutouts. 9 shutouts during the year. Yes. So that defense is really good. Even though they've lost some players, you know, here's another interesting stat for them. In addition to those 9 shutouts, they allowed 7 points total in their first 8 games. They had 17 interceptions last year. And if you look at the season as a whole, they didn't give up a lot of points. Most points that they gave up was to Cocoa in the state semifinals. So yeah, that defense is really, really good. And their offense is going to be pretty good too. They got Pollard, a 1,000-yard running back, will be back for them. So I think, Brent, I'm glad you mentioned Bradford because they're going to be very good this year. Question about the Jacksonville. I think the team that has the best chance to win a state championship, I mean, you got to throw in Trinity Christian and Bowles. I mean, they've been perennial powers in Duval County for years. I think both of those teams are in different classifications. Bowles is in 2M. Trinity Christian is in 1M. I might say Trinity Christian might have the better chance. But then you throw in maybe some sleepers, like maybe a Mandarin High School.
I heard Mandarin was just loaded with D1 commits.
Yeah, so let's see if they can put it together. But Mandarin actually, that USA Today Florida Network actually just released their state poll, Shane, and Mandarin is ranked 4th in the state. So they're a legit contender this year. So yeah, that's some of the probably some of the teams I think that have the best chance to win a state championship. University Christian's always pretty good. I don't know if they'll win state this year, but they'll be a playoff team in that Jacksonville area as well.
Oak Hall, RJ Fuhr's done a tremendous job with that program. St. Francis, another private school in the Gainesville area. Just talk about those two programs, what you see on the horizon for them.
All right, we'll start with Oak Hall because they've kind of been a model of consistency. Now, they compete in what was the SSAC, the Sunshine State Athletic Conference. They've actually changed it now to association, SSAA. But Oak Hall last year went undefeated. They lost in the postseason, but the team they lost to had to forfeit. So Oak Hall finished 8-0 last year. They lost to Central Florida Christian Academy out of Ocoee in the first round, but again, later received that forfeit win. So I think that Oak Hall competing in the SSAA will have a chance to make a run this year. They've got some players back. Briggs Copeland, their running back, Abram Jerkins, who will play running back and linebacker, Dakota Brower at quarterback. So RJ Fuhr does a nice job with that program. And St. Francis Catholic is another team that may surprise some people. Last year, they only won one game under James Langham, and it was their first win, I think, Shane, in 4 years. But it's a program. Yeah, they snapped a 25-game losing streak, but it's a program that I think will improve this year. James Langham said, "We're not the St. Francis Catholic Academy of old." So I think he likes his football team. I think question not only with St. Francis, but Oak Hall, any of these small teams, Shane, depth is always going to be concerned. You got to stay healthy. But I think if St. Francis does, I think they've got a chance to maybe even finish as high as 500 this year. They've got 7 starters returning on offense. They got 7 back on defense. So James Langham's entering his second year as the head coach. I think they'll be much improved this year.
Yeah, for sure. Down in Ocala, obviously Vanguard, a powerhouse. Trinity Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect Trinity Catholic. They play a tough schedule. District is not very difficult. Should be in the hunt for a state title game. What about the Vanguard Knights?
Yeah, just to echo your thoughts there on Trinity Catholic. They made a run all the way to the state championship game last year and came up just short. But I think Trinity Catholic was ranked number 1 in that poll that just came out. Trinity Catholic, ranked number 1. They received 9 of the 10 first place votes. Vanguard, they're always in the mix. What can they do once they get to the postseason will be the question. But obviously it's a team that got back to the postseason last year, got a really good quarterback coming back this year. Last year they lost in the second round of the playoffs, but they lost to Lake Wales, who ended up winning the state championship. So yeah, Vanguard will be one of those teams. I think those are the top 2 teams for sure in Ocala. I'd put Trinity Catholic 1, Vanguard number 2.
We got a text on the Titan MR text sign from William. It's kind of long. I'll paraphrase. He says, I just miss the days of high school football where the kids in your area went to the correct high school. Mike,
Amen.
How are you able to keep up with all the transferring going on in high school football? By the way, I don't think maybe people do realize that at Watch My Show, but like I said, Buchholz has a ton of transfers Bradford, I know Bradford has like 5 kids from the Gainesville area that are going to school there to play football. It's a mess at the high school level now.
It is. And, case in point, I mentioned Miles Graham, who I didn't even realize this. I thought he transferred from the Georgia school to Buchholz, but talking to Willie Jackson, he said, no, he was here for a little bit.
Oh, he was at PK Young. Yeah, he went there first.
He went to PK and then ended up going to Buchholz. So he switched schools, before the school even started. So that's got to be frustrating, to lose these kids. Andrew Thomas was just telling me, he had about 5 kids that have transferred out. And the problem with a school like Union County, nobody's transferring into Union County. You're going to get that talent in that Lake Butler area, surrounding area, but you're probably not going to get a Gainesville, Buchholz, Eastside, those types of transfers to that school. So it's just tough. I mean, it's hard to keep up with all these transfers. I don't like it. I think it's definitely watered down high school sports. And I'm fearful that it could get worse. We've talked about this on the show before, Shane, that you could conceivably play football at one school, basketball in another, and then transfer and play baseball in another. We've already seen an athlete from Ocala transfer and play 2 sports at 2 different schools in the same school year. So I hate it, but it is what it is right now. The transfer portal, it can help you, but it can hurt you. I mean, look at North Marion. They lost 2 of their key players. Hawthorne, the rich get richer. Hawthorne picks up Caleb Rollerson, who led North Marion in receiving last year, and they lose Andrew Zock, who's a Navy commit, who led the team in tackles. Both those players are at Hawthorne this year. So I don't like the transfer portal. It is tough to keep up with these guys when they're transferring, through the off season and even in season, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, I mean the days of growing up with the guys playing middle school Pop Warner ball and going to the same high school that you're zoned for are long over. I mean, they're kids. They're kids from the Gainesville area that drive to Trinity Catholic to go to play football. That's nuts.
Yeah, I know.
That is nuts.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. That's one thing that I liked about the Gainesville basketball team. Now, again, you're talking about a smaller group, but they were able to keep their guys together, keep them from transferring, and they ended up falling 1 game short of the state semifinals. If you've got your players and you can keep those guys, by the time they're juniors and seniors, you could have a special year. But, with the transfer portal, I don't know that you can necessarily do that now.
Yeah. All right, Mike, you're not only you run the prepzone.com, but you also run the Main Street Daily News sports section. You were telling me before you came on that y'all did like a high school preview, 20-something pages. How can people get a hold of that?
All right, we have several drop locations, but you can look. We have a print edition that comes out every Wednesday, and inside our newspaper is a special 24-page insert called Pigskin Preview. So we'll get the sports page too with our picks, but then also check out our special print edition, because we preview all the Alachua County teams. It is an Alachua County based paper, but we do have a preview on Union County. We've got a preview of the Tri-County area, but lots of locations that you can find this at in Gainesville. I know it's also available in Alachua, University of Florida, Hawthorne, High Springs, Jonesville, Melrose. We typically print 10,000 print editions each week in Alachua County, so it's all over Alachua County, but we printed more this week because of the special football insert. And then also on Friday night, my game will be Buchholz and Columbia, 106.9 FM, 7:30 kick, 7 o'clock pregame with former Gator Hank Rome.
Hammer and Hank will be your color analyst.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you, you're planning to have 1 or 2 games a week? Because, there's a lot of Thursday night games in this area. Yes. What's your plan? I know sometimes you wait to see how people are playing, their schedules, but do you have something kind of laid out for the first couple of weeks so people can tune in?
Yeah, I always put on our schedule subject to change, because, if we get a matchup that maybe doesn't look as good as it did at the beginning of the year, we might change that. But our schedule that we have, we pick the best games that we can each week. And, as far as that radio broadcast, in addition to Buchholz Columbia this week, We got Hawthorne at Newberry next week. You know, we've got Union County Hawthorne later in the season. You know, that was a game where Union County was up 21-0 at the half, and Hawthorne scores on almost the last play of the game to win that 28-21 over in Lake Butler. This year it's at Hawthorne. So those are some of the types of games you'll hear on 106.9 FM. But we also have an audio game of the week. So we'll have 2 football games each week. Our audio game of the week at MainStreetDailyNews.com is Newberry at Santa Fe, big rivalry game. Cam Parker, Hugh Green will call that one on Friday night. That's also a 7:30 game, 7:15 pregame there.
Joseph says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, Florida High is the best chance for the semis to get a championship in football. Yeah, Florida High is going to be, they're loaded this year. I think they got a chance. I don't know what classification they play in. I still haven't learned it all, but I think they have a chance.
Yeah, they're in. I haven't either, Shane. That's another thing. You know, the transfer portal and these dang classifications. You know, the 4S's, the Suburbans, and the Metro. I don't like it, but Florida High is in 2S, 2 Suburban. They lost to Cocoa in the state championship game. It was Cocoa that beat Bradford in that state semifinal game.
Yes. Yeah. I knew they have a very good chance to get back for that to the state championship. No doubt about it. Mike, appreciate your time, my man. You do a tremendous job covering these high school kids. One more time, let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter and follow you at Main Street Daily News.
Okay. We will have our regional all classification football rankings coming out at theprepzone.com, but we'll also post them at mainstreetdailynews.com. You know, I've been covering a lot of high school volleyball. You know, Santa Fe's a 2-time state champion. Gainesville's got 3 Division I players on the team this year. Those 2 teams will play next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at GHS. I'll be there to cover that. So in addition to high school football, we cover all the high schools in the Main Street Daily News coverage area. Alachua, Bradford, Columbia, Dixie, Gilchrist, Levy, Swanee, Union, Keystone Heights. But MainStreetDailyNews.com is the place to go for all the stuff that we post online, as well as our broadcast info.
Good stuff as always, my man. I appreciate your time.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, Shane. Have a great day.
That's Mike Ridaught. Join us on the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup on the Titan MR text line. Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. Let's get to This Day in Sports, brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This Day in Sports, in 1992, this is kind of amazing to me. The Cleveland Browns suffered their worst preseason loss, 56-3 to the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know how you score 56 points in a preseason game, because you usually don't try and you only have like X amount of plays you're running. So that's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Really want to thank Brent, Beaird, and Mike Ridaught for taking their time to join our program. Tomorrow I'll have JC. Who's my other guest tomorrow? I can't remember. Too many concussions, I guess. But we'll do some Peachland Dentistry picks for the games this weekend. We have college football, Notre Dame kicking it off, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time against the Naval Academy over in Ireland. So have a great day, folks. See you tomorrow. Take care.